Here we are again to another meditation. Marty is here. I'm here. If you have just gotten acquainted with us, I'll tell you a little quick backstory. Marty and I have been doing meditations for quite a while. I tend to share what's going on in my world and things that have crossed over in my experience, and then Marty does a great job of translating. Marty has got decades of experience leading these kinds of things, and if you haven't tuned into this, I invite you to sit down somewhere. He can debrief you into it, but sit down somewhere and meditate with us. Meditation's such a big part of our practice, of our coaching. It's a part of our retreats. It's a part of everything that we do. And if you're new to meditation, we have an episode particularly just for you on why meditation is important and how to begin. So whether you're just getting familiar with it, you've used apps like Calm or Headspace before, or you've done this for years, we invite you to be a part of today. Marty, welcome. Glad to have you back.
Good to be back. I bet we could get them to link that episode into this one.
I'm sure. Yeah, check out the show notes. Check out the podcast show as a whole. If this is your first time with us, welcome to the Get Out of Your Own Way show. We're excited to be here with you.
I do think they're all labeled as meditation with Marty, so they're easy to find.
Should be easy to find. That's right. Well, I'll kick this off, Marty, by just kind of sharing a story for you, and then we can kind of tee this off into meditation. I was having a conversation with a buddy tonight that I haven't seen in several years, so we had a lot to catch up on. And some of those stories from the last several years are glorious, and some of them are difficult. And one of the things that came up was just how hard boundaries can be. So he said something really meaningful to me. He said, it's an old phrase that I've heard many, many times, but I never had put it in this context. He said, those that matter won't mind, and those that mind won't matter. And I've heard that like for other things. I mean, I've heard that like numbers of times, but I never had connected with boundaries. And the reason it came up is I was talking about how, in the move out here and in some of my growth, I've had to set boundaries, and not everyone likes that. And it's cost me some friendships to say no. And then he said, those that matter won't mind, and those that won't mind, or those that mind won't matter. And I was like, I never really, I never had an experience to equate that to related to boundaries and saying no. And I think that I've learned a lot about people by saying no. Like, I think there is a truth to that statement in context to boundaries. Like, when you say no to somebody, you really get to find out a lot about them. And over the last several weeks, even months, in particular, I could probably go back to years, I've had to get better. I've had to develop the skill of saying no. But I don't often feel great about the consequence of saying no. Like, I sometimes know it needs to happen, and sometimes struggle to say it and slip with a yes, a fast accidental yes, or a yes out of convenience. And that statement really helps hone in, I think, a piece that was missing to me. Like, the people that matter the most, they really haven't ever minded it. In fact, if I've said no to them, they've almost inquired more and asked more and created space for me to share what's going on, and asked if everything was okay, and given me space and reciprocated in such a kind, gentle way. I think the most powerful kind of person is a giver with boundaries. And yet at the same time, I've struggled immensely through the course of my journey as an entrepreneur to feel good about saying no, and feel like there's a power to do that, and feel like there's a deep sense of, the only word that comes to mind is okayness if it doesn't go well. And there's always a fear that it doesn't go well, that I could say no and it's not taken gracefully, but that particular line, those that matter won't mind and those that mind won't matter, really landed talking about boundaries.
I mean, boundaries essentially are love, right? You do it out of love for yourself more often than not. And I think that's important to keep in mind. I'm also like you're 3 Enneagram 2, which gives a 2 wing. I mean, you're doomed to have a difficult time saying no, in that regards. But I do think it's a lifelong journey of having to set those boundaries, not only personally, but as well in work. It's not always easy in either case, but so necessary for your own well-being, for the well-being of the company, to be able to say. We see lots of companies that don't know how to say no, and they're on the path to burnout and collapse.
Yeah, the culture doesn't really allow for it.
No.
Yeah. I'm also reminded that we did an episode, if this resonates with you and something that you struggle with, there's an episode that we did with Kendra Maples about how to talk about boundaries and how to get there. And I think that what deserves to be said for all the people pleasers in the house, raise your hand, whoop, whoop. The the thing that sticks
we love you. We love you.
Yeah, right. We're here to help you. The thing about boundaries that I had mistaken for a long time was that I thought boundaries were for others. Boundaries have nothing to do with anyone else. They're just about us. And that's where I think the quote even stands to have more ground, right? If we say something like, I won't make it to this trip. I'd love to be there and I hope you have a great time. Someone that really understands boundaries, right, that gets it, will appreciate a no and then a cheer on. And someone that doesn't get it might feel offended. And I think the more I get accustomed to this, like saying no from a healthy place, not about the other person. It's never meant to offend. It's never meant to tear anybody down, but to get to a place where you can just communicate what the answer is, communicate the no. And then if you want to share the context, you can. But to do that out of care for myself, like care for my mental health, care for my energy, care for my focus, care for the pursuits that matter most to me, whatever it is. But it has been a long journey of boundaries. Not an easy one either.
Yeah, for any of us. And both of us have grappled with it. I grappled with it a lot in my former life, and I think it would only contributed to my own downfall and my own burnout. Because I kept trying to make it work, and it just wasn't meant to work. But you end up trying to please everyone else in the process, and it gets you nowhere. But resentment.
Yeah, and man, I feel like the hardest part of boundaries, I don't know if any of you listening can relate to this, but the hardest part of boundaries is the repositioning of what matters. Because in many ways, what got me caught up in the mess of not having them was like, well, let me downplay my needs in service of others. And while noble in intention, it's a fundamentally flawed logical process. Like, I got to take care of me before I can take care of anybody else. And I think I just deprioritized myself so much that I got to a place where the only way to change that was to set boundaries. It's just a mismatch of, do we care about ourselves? Do we love ourselves? And I think the expectation is like, if I don't set boundaries, I'll be loved. That was my thought. That was my desire. Like if I say yes all the time, then I'll be loved. Someone will love me. Someone will care for me. Someone will say that I'm amazing. And it was I don't think it was ever intended to be this way, but I think it was a grasp. It was a hope for love in the first place, because I didn't know how to give it to myself.
Yeah, two things. It comes down to worthy enough of lovable, which we'll talk about on the meditation. and how important that is. But I think what eventually that I had to learn myself was all those yeses had a no attached to them, and it was a no towards me. I was saying no to me while I was saying yes to everyone else, and that it you just can't do it. The other episode that I think of is lack love. It's all out of lack.
Yeah, those that matter won't mind, right? Those that care about you, that want to see you in your best, that want to appreciate you and show you love, will not mind that you have said no in the interest of yourself. And those that mind won't matter. Those that condemn you and negatively respond to you setting and drawing a line, they ain't gonna hang around much longer.
No, they'll find the next victim.
Yeah, and hopefully, if you're listening, hopefully you have the presence of mind to recognize the difference, right? If someone says, especially to me lately, right, this is important as a coach to lead people through. If someone says like, hey, I can't attend, or, hey, I'd love to be with you for the weekend, but I really need to focus on my schoolwork, or, hey, I'd love to hang out this Saturday, but I've had a really long week and I just need some solo time. Like, I love to respond to that with love. Hey, please do what you feel is best for you. We've all been left high and dry on like a Friday night where like our friends say something like, hey man, I can't make it tonight. Like, that's different than setting a boundary. Setting the boundary is like, hey, I really need to prioritize my mental health this weekend. I think I need to stay in. That's going to get a really positive response from me. And I hope that wherever you are and whatever you're dealing with when it comes to setting boundaries, whether it's new for you or you're practiced or you're feeling really confident about it, that you can resonate with that quote and maybe lean into boundaries even more as you prioritize your next level. So, Marty, take that where you will, man. Let's dig in.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
Well, you know me well, and my brain's going, all right, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? We'll see where it goes.
We'll see where it goes.
All right. Well, as we always do, find yourself a comfortable position. Whatever works. If you're driving, keep driving. Just be mindful. Otherwise, you can close your eyes and begin to relax. And just start with some deep breaths. Whether your day is beginning or ending, it's always good to be mindful of what you're grateful for. And just let that breath gradually slow down as it flows throughout your body. As you take in that deep breath, be mindful of it going throughout your entire body, from the top of your head, down through your chest, into your arms and fingers, through your gut and down through your legs and feet, toes. And just let that breath flow with the beat of your heart. And as the thoughts of the day begin to arise, just acknowledge them and let them flow. They'll always be there. If they're important, they'll come back up. Don't try to control them or judge them or stop them. Just acknowledge them and let them flow. The more you can allow yourself to drop into your body and out of your head, the more you become in touch with that self-love. That space where we say yes to ourselves. If your attention is drawn elsewhere in your body, maybe you're holding on to tension or pain, acknowledge it, let the breath flow through it. You have the power to free yourself. And it's really the heart where we center ourselves. So if it helps, place your hand on your heart, your hands on your heart. While maintaining those deep breaths, allowing the thoughts to flow. And imagine yourself in a space where you feel most safe, where you're most allowed to be yourself. A space where you're not threatened, where you're not judged. A space you don't have to live up to someone else's expectations. And allow yourself to feel what that is like, to have such freedom. Where your yes means yes and your no means no. And you're loved all the same. What kind of feeling does it evoke within you to have such freedom, to have such a space? And most importantly, who are the people that share that space with you? If you could show up free to be yourself, you free up everyone else in that space at the same time. What do you hear? What do you see? What are you feeling as you walk through this space? Are you feeling more alive, more yourself? Is there laughter? And even tears, a place where vulnerability is possible. No shame, a place you don't have to hide. And with your hand on your heart, just allow yourself to be in that space. To appreciate. To show gratitude. To love and to be loved. A space where you can say yes to yourself, to what matters to you. To your values, to what you want. When we allow ourselves to feel that in our bodies, we know what to expect when we're in those moments again. When we want to say a half yes, or a no without saying no. Or a yes when we want to say no. When we say that yes from our most authentic place, we do it from the space knowing that we are worthy, that we are enough, and that we are lovable. That's when our yes means yes. Our most authentic self, worthy, enough, and lovable. Feel that in your heart. And breathe it through your entire body. That you are worthy, you are enough, and you are lovable. That's saying yes to you. And as the image begins to fade, we're mindful once again of our breathing. We're mindful of our heartbeat and the space in which we are. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. It's probably a topic we could talk about over and over again because I think it's so essential, especially to a lot of the clients we work with who have had trouble establishing those boundaries. And when you're not clear on what you want, it's very easy to have blurred boundaries as well. And so I think it's something all of us have struggled with in one way or another, and something we have to consistently come back to in our lives to reground ourselves in some ways to who we really are and what we really want.
Yeah, I would echo that. It also can change over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really enjoyed that. I think the safety within us and the space of trust in ourselves and our own value is really important to boundaries. And I really love that meditation. And if you're struggling with boundaries, if you're struggling with saying no, if you're struggling with staying focused because you keep saying soft yeses all the time, send us a note, send me a DM, get on the website and sign up for our emails. You can reply to our emails. Like, there's lots of ways to reach out to us, but don't suffer alone. Don't suffer in silence. We can help. And even just a communication on Instagram or on any of our platforms where we are, we're here to help. So
yeah, either of us are more than willing to get on a call. If you're really struggling with it, we could help at least point you in the right direction.
Yeah. And that's whether or not you come to a retreat or join a program does not matter. We're here to help. Marty, thanks for another great meditation. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you all being here as part of the Get Out of Your Own Way show. We're really committed to helping you solve your biggest problem, which, as a matter of fact, is you.
Which this meditation is all about that.
So if you're stuck in your own way, if you want to learn more, we're starting to send out newsletters. We've got a really special community online, and we invite you to check out the website, getoutofyourownway.coach, to learn about that community, learn about our programs, learn about retreats. But again, don't feel like you got to jump that far into the water. You can just say hello, tell us where you're struggling, and we'll make some time to connect with you. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next one.